this is Mike on editing. Just wanted to do a quick, no videos are quick, just do a quick video on some of my philosophical tips on editing, some of the 10 most used tools and things that I use when I do my editing. So hopefully once you understand these shortcuts, they'll just help you speed up your editing workflow and you'll just get some really cool pieces. So let's check it out. This is more philosophy and whatnot versus like, it's philosophy and sort of how to versus really techie. Because techie is whatever, but this could transfer to most editing programs, because there's like, I wanted to say 10 editing basics you need to know, but I don't know if that's officially going to be it. First is going to be the razor. This is going to be just your general slice tool. So in here, in Premiere, it's Control K or Option K, who knows what that is. In Resolve, it is Control and the slash. Well, so in addition to that, you want to get very comfortable with Control A. And what Control A does is that highlights all your frames. So especially if you're using a multi-frame editor, which is basically going to be DaVinci Resolve, how to select everything to the right of playhead. See, so then you're going to do, so you just made your cut, you select it all, you did your razor cut, and then you're going to do Alt Y. Now you notice the way it's selected, it only cut the top frame, but it didn't cut anything else. So that will inevitably become an issue. Now it's not an issue because you don't see a bunch of stuff, but it will inevitably become an issue. I promise you. Which is why, so that's why you want to use, you want to make sure you're selecting all before you do a razor cut. Because otherwise, if you miss a track or a layer, then it's going to screw up all your audio and your video, and then it's going to be out of sync. And invariably, you will notice it down the road. You're not going to notice it in 5 seconds. You're going to notice it 30 cuts from now, and then there's going to be like 20 clips that are out of sync because of that. And that's a pain in the... So the next thing is zooming in and zooming out. This is like the thing. So Resolve, it's Control, minus, and plus. In Premiere, I think it's minus and plus. You do the wide view. You want to see everything. Then you zoom in. A lot of it is because, watch. So you do a little cut. So you kind of wait. A lot of editing is like, it's this waiting. So you do Control A, you cut. And then there was this whole little scene. I stood up. Scene isn't the right word, but so you zoom out. Now, if anyone in the comments wants to say like, oh no, you should do this, that's easier, I'm all ears. This is what I do. So you end up zooming out, coming in, which so you zoom out, you gotta scoot things over, you take your one clip. Now I'm just being kind of hoarderish with this. I will, just for fun, I feel like I'm gonna make a video of the edit, just because like I feel like doing an in-between will be fun. Doing an in-between, I think of all these, because this video I'm doing all these claps and snaps to kind of like make the lights turn on and off, and so I think it'll be, I guess I could do a clap on, or instead I have to manually do it, and so I think it'll be funny to just put all these clips at the end and then just like a render of like Mike turning on, turning off, because that's the trick of editing. Like, there's this boring stuff that nobody wants to watch, and that's why you need to cut it all, because like no one wants to see it. So it's easy, kind of like what I say in this video, juxtaposed against something. Like if you see a big fire or a big splash, like that's the action. But like when there's a big scene of nothing, it's hard to know like what is the action. And then when there's 20 minutes, what is the true action and what is the stuff you want to cut? And that's really what's hard. So first thing, we zoom in, zoom out, which got us to the next one, which was like a ripple delete. So if you noticed when let's see, where was that? So you put your mouse in between the clips, you see how it grays right there. You do shift backspace, I think in Premiere it's just delete, and then it basically tightens those clips, because otherwise if you try to move it, you are invariably going to screw it up. I guarantee it. So this is why you just want to do it. If there's like a keyboard shortcut to squish them all together, like do it. You're saving yourself. Shift versus Control. So here we'll widen. So whatever editing program, understanding your ripple delete, like deleting the spaces, that is going to save you a bunch of time. Speed up your edit. There was a ripple edit too. There's a special tool, this one just for, let's see, well, that's the other tool. So undo and redo. This is actually pretty standard across most programs, but this is something that's very important. Control Z, Control Shift Z. Both of those are very, very important, and you will find that they come into play a lot. So you do a couple mistakes, you do a couple edits, you're like, oh wait, no, I actually like that other way better. Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, oops, that was one too far, Control Shift Z, and then it puts that last one back. So I don't know if it's like 10 to 20 moves, because obviously over more than that it gets a little dicey, but like that's something to really, really, really keep in mind. Control Z, Shift Control Z, undo, redo. Key, very much key to editing. Understand those shortcuts in your editing program. Select to end. So one of the other things that I'm pretty big on, so let's see. So actually, let's do that. So instead of the ripple, say we have, I think I basically just showed you this, but say instead of doing that ripple, we have, this is where I'll show both of those. So say we have all these. Now, for one reason or another, of course I'm not going to show the perfect scene. So this is when you would just easily ripple delete, and it squishes. One of the things when you're going to move, so Control Z, Control Z, when you're going to want to move and put like something, so say you want to cut this and you want to move everything from the right all the way over. This is where Alt Y, you're just going to want to plop in a clip. Who knows what it is? Alt Y. So now it's got all these clips. So they're all moving over to the right. Yeah. Now you can plop in whatever you need. You highlight, you see you have that gray area. Ripple delete, you're in space. Or you're in business, whatever. Another ripple delete. So since I'm being a hoarder and I'm saving these clips, one of the things you can do, so you got this clip selected, you're knifing it. Here, it's called trim edit mode. This is where ripple delete, this is all, it's like little variations in the platforms just to get you out of your comfort zone. So when you use something else, it's just a little confusing. But if you want to cut and move it, I mean, the other thing is you make two cuts. So here's one way. You make two cuts, bam, 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 delete. So then you just delete that space. Adding two cuts and doing that, it tends to, change around a lot. So what you do is you do this. So instead of making two cuts, you make one cut, and then you slide your timeline over So then it becomes just this one cut that's like a moving ripple delete. So, because invariably, again, maybe this video will be invariably some editing tips or whatever, but invariably there's going to be, like, you're going to undercut or you're going to overcut or something. You're going to need a little more precision. And so this is a way to get just a little more precision with these clips, because then you zoom in, you go next to your audio, and then it goes. I do that cough. We don't mind. I'm getting over a cold, so we don't want to have that. There's a couple things. There's a lot of things to consider, and most things are in context of the other thing. So get around. So that's why your ripple delete or ripple edit is going to be like another time saver, because it's just going to help your edits, because it's going to be an easier way for you to just smooth everything together. You have a little more control, and then it's not over. So you don't just delete it. You still have that cut, and then once you move it, so you still have this cut, but then so if you notice my playhead, that was here, and then that was here. So it's like two different spots. You're extending the first, when you make a clip, you can still extend that first clip. So it's not like you're even losing, it's not like you're even losing what you're doing. You're still like keeping it, and then you're extending it, which is great, because then, you know, back in my day, in college, we did it with film strips, and you had to cut, and so it was just, once the film is done, it's done. But here it like still exists, and so typically you're going to need just a little more from that front clip and then a little more from that second clip, and so this is how you can finesse it, and then it eventually becomes just a really tight edit. So ripple ending. Rendering is basically when you're done, right? It's I typically, when I edit, I try and move everything at like the lowest resolution possible so I can get the smoothest playback, because when you're doing the edit, you don't necessarily need it to look all 4K high res. You just want it to be fluid. You just want to be able to make like 4 edits and not have the machine almost blow up because it's got to process the footage. You just want it to do it and be done. So rendering is basically what you do when you're all done. You'll highlight, right click, typically on the timeline. You do a mark in, select another spot, mark out. You see there's these little, just this little highlighted area, and then Control M in Premiere. This is going to be deliver. So deliver, you have your different options. There'll be another video on options. H.264 is a is a pretty good like compressed video form that still gets you a really good quality that you can upload on basically everyone's computer, or upload on like all the socials and YouTube and whatnot. So H.264 is cool. If you're gonna do like 4K and you're gonna go to DVDs, then obviously you're not watching beginner videos. So I'm assuming you're not doing that, and if you are, I don't know, congrats, I'm glad your first project is that, and then you need the full resolve. One other thing, so let's see, I'm gonna do that. Maybe I should call it editing platform agnostic on what these rules are. Like agnostic editing philosophy tips. Because snapping is another one you will find. We're not seeing as much here. The other thing is learning the shortcuts between the ripple edit and what your arrow select tool is, because the arrow select tool is going to be what you use to kind of scoot around. Let's see, use this. I guess you can do that. Why am was I just gonna go back? Just trust me. You want to know what your arrow is, okay? So in Resolve it's A. In Premiere, I believe it's V. I believe it's V in Premiere. And so you just want to know what it is to sort of get back to your base. I'm sure there's a zoom to fit, like shortcut as well. So if you know that, that's going to save you even more time too. But snapping is it's like a subtle, so here snapping is off and it's fluid and you see the timing. I don't think the timing actually shows, but it goes like per frame. But when you add a snap, when it's closer, it like, I don't know what the configuration is, but it like uses playheads and it uses like the major cuts that are there. And so it works when you're doing the lining stuff up. If you're not doing the ripple delete, you want to have snapping on because that's the way to get you to butt everything up against each other. But if you don't need to do that and you need a little more precision, usually it's this magnet. But it has the icon. The icon is usually there, so I just select the magnet. They are both a magnet in Premiere and Resolve, so whatever your platform is. I don't know if that's an advanced thing or not, but just FYI. I wanted to talk about increase and decreasing audio, because that's kind of something that you're most invariably you're going to use again, because there are going to be some different audios, and so you could normalize, you can get into your audio editing. Again, this is more of an intro video, so if you're doing audio, you might need a more advanced video, which will eventually come out. But this, you'll find a lot of options if you just right click on it. So you can normalize audio levels. That'll get you, it'll figure it all out. The problem is I'm doing these clicks on with my keys and the mouse and whatnot, and so those are actually the loudest thing compared to me speaking. So that's why it's almost going to be a little weird to use those as the normalizer, because then it's going to normalize that. So that's a whole other thing. But audio, increase audio level 1 decibel, decrease 1 decibel, increase 3 or decrease 3 decibels. So this is just how much of a variation you need to go. So I'll let you choose that. And that'll be, as I'll say with most stuff, it's in juxtaposition to something else. If you need your music louder, but the voice is quieter, then maybe you need to do like 6 or 9 decibels or whatever. So it's up to you. You got to figure that out. Yeah, and so I didn't even get into the basic philosophy of it, but it's going to be the boring things. I mean, so we have like 30 minutes of me rambling, which is what it is, right? I mean, it's just, that's how long it is. Invariably on the set, you're gonna keep the camera rolling in between takes. You're gonna, the person's gonna screw up. They're gonna flub lines. You're gonna keep the camera going. So there's gonna be like 30 to an hour. Who knows what it is? So I kind of look at editing in like 3 or 4 different stages, and this is my philosophy. You can do whatever's best for you, but since I have this much footage, I find it's overwhelming to focus on 30 seconds and just try and get those the best they can if I don't see the full picture. It's kind of like writing a song. When people show me a verse and they're like, all right, let's practice it. And it's like, okay, well, show me the bridge and then the chorus, and then I understand how to play the verse, because the verse leads into the bridge, leads into the chorus, leads back to the verse. Because then if you need to drop that second verse, you need to play it with more intensity because that chorus is intense, right? So it's all in juxtaposition to the other thing that you are doing. So that's why you can't look at it in this little slice. It's in the piece. So I do one big edit, the whole thing. I know that for this, I'm cutting out all the little silly stuff where I'm snapping and turning on lights, changing lights, standing up and doing that. That's my first edit. Second edit is going to be going through. There's going to be invariably, there's going to be a bunch of pauses that I do in between thoughts. Then I cut those out. I may do those with the first edit. Like some of these glaringly obvious things I do in the first edit. Then you do the second. Then you do the third. Then you take a little bit of time and then you come back. Because the thing about having time is like the most important thing to almost any creative and art project. Because if you're just focused on it way too close, you don't see the forest for the trees or whatever. Like you just see the 30 seconds you're looking at. And so if you can at least put a little space between you and your piece, it's like when you come back, you're like, oh, why did I leave that in? That's stupid. You're like, what jokes you may find funny for the first or third viewing, and then once you're watching it later, removed, then you're like, wait, this is not funny. And so then you gotta cut it. And so that's harder to know on the first viewing. So that's where it's like, you want to give yourself a little bit of time and a little bit of space so then you can do this more effectively. So thanks. This is the Mike's platform agnostic philosophical editing tips. Some on mostly for Premiere Pro and Resolve, because those are the two that I use, but a lot of these things, as long as you have a ripple delete or a zoom out, zoom in, those things are going to help your editing, because these are like the 10 things that you basically are looking at when you're doing any kind of editing. So understanding those keyboard shortcuts will just speed up your editing and your workflow. So happy editing. Hope you don't get bored. If you do, well, send it to me and I'll help out.